Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Trade Stock. I'm excited to kick off another episode with a landscape professional today who's out of Portland, Oregon. Mark Pyrah with Peak Landscaping is joining us, and we're going to talk all things landscaping, commercial maintenance, growing a company, having partners in a landscape company, and so many great things. Also, I love anyone else that is on the West Coast. We can talk shop and communicate in that same language. So Mark, welcome to the Trade Stock. How you doing today, man?
Good. How are you, Justin? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's honored to have you on the show. I've had the pleasure of getting to watch you speak at a few different conferences. Most recently, SmartCon over in Vegas, or sorry, that was in Phoenix with the Weathermatic team. I've been all over this year. Can't keep them all straight.
You're a busy guy. You travel a lot, so.
Oh, I do, man. Well, you do too. I see you at the conferences, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show. One of many reasons is you're in the flow of the trends of the landscape industry. You're out there shaking it up with leaders, and you're going back home and you're executing at an extremely high level. So, Mark, I'd love to open it up to our audience a little bit just about who is Peak Landscape. The way you started is very unique, I think, compared to most people. I'd love to hear a little bit of that backstory of you moving to Oregon and then starting this business with a few partners.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually grew up in Idaho in a very small community, just a farming community, and knew from a young age, well, maybe in high school, that there wasn't going to be a lot of opportunity there for me as far as what I wanted to do. I was supposed to be a pharmacist. That's what they told me I was supposed to be in high school, and either that or an accountant. So I went to school to be into pre-pharmacy. And I learned really quickly in that second semester that I am not a smart guy when it comes to chemistry and math and those things. It was just way over my head. And so I took a few years to find my faith and go serve other people. I came back and really discovered again my passion for the outdoors. I had worked on golf courses growing up, and I had started my own lawn business with my parents dragging me along, I should say. And so I did that for 6 years of my teenage childhood there. And so I reconnected with that, and I learned that the college that I was going to did have a horticulture landscape program. I took one design class and fell in love with it again, and just really connected with it. So I got my associate's degree in landscape horticulture and then moved to Los Angeles, believe it or not. Took a job with a company down there called Picture Perfect Construction, and a small outfit, but they did, high-end stuff. And I thought I was the stuff. I thought I was pretty cool. And, you find out later that you're not so cool most of the time. You just need to work hard, and that's what makes you successful. Anyway, so I worked there for a year, but I was recruited out of a company to come to the Northwest. And so my wife is from Alaska, and we decided always that we wanted to be in the Northwest at some point during our lifetime. And so we took the leap, moved to Portland, and I worked for a commercial company here for a couple of years. And then I left and went to another smaller outfit and met my first business partner. His name is Jason Osley. He's an amazing guy. And he actually approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to start something?" And being 27, 28 at the time, I'm like, sure. I mean, why not? What's to lose? And so we started it. We took about 6 months to kind of find our footing and get our plan together. And then we set out. So that's how Peak started. It was nerve-wracking and hard, but we wanted to be very clear about who we served, what our market was. We spent 3 or 4 months just coming up with a name, just making sure that spoke to the customer the way that we wanted it to speak to them. We wanted to project that we were much bigger than we were, because we started with 2 employees, myself and my business partner. And And so that's how we kind of got Peak started. And then from there, we, we took off.
Wow, that's such a cool way to kick off a company. And so I want to kind of dig into that first beginning, that 0 to $1 million. Um, hey Mark, real quick, I'm gonna my microphone keeps cutting in and out. 1 second. I'm gonna pause the recording and restart it, and then we'll start on that question. But that was a great intro. All right, perfect. All right, so yeah, we'll jump right into that of how it all started. All right. So great backstory. I love the backstory, and I want to ask a little bit about how that beginning really got started. You and a partner, and maybe a truck and a dream and a name. How did you guys go from that? How'd you get your first customer? How'd you get your second customer? That story I think is so interesting to people today who are just starting out as well. What are some of those first steps that you guys took to establish the business?
Yeah. So with everything, as you know, we're in the commercial space. We're almost 100% commercial. And we're at the time, and that's what our background was and what we felt we were pretty good at. And so we had decided it's very relationship driven, as you know.
Yeah.
And so in order to get to maintenance, maintenance has a very long sales cycle. It could be a year, it could be 2 years if you are just meeting that person. So it takes forever. So we had planned and decided that we were going to do commercial installation. And that was going to be one of the fastest ways for us to develop relationships. And so in November of 2005, I started estimating, and I had experience in that. I started estimating every project that we could find, commercial project, retail centers, business parks, whatever it was. And the fortunate part about growing at that, when nobody knows you, is that if you're the low bidder, they don't really care.
In commercial work, right?
Price and let's go, let's do this. And so I started estimating everything I could, and within that first year, we started landing projects. And by the end of the first year, we had done, I think, 1.7 million in revenue, and we had about 10 employees, right?
Yeah.
So that it was a crazy growth just in that first year. The second year, we ended up doing, I think, 3.5 million in revenue. Just blew up and had tons of commercial projects that we were working on, and had started even as early as 2006. This is the crazy part. We met a property manager in 2006 that ended up being. I did this last year where I traced back all of the relationships that we have now to that one person. And it's about 45 to 50 relationships, all from one person we met in 2006 from a commercial construction project.
Wow. That's incredible. And that's in the Portland. This is all happening in Portland, Oregon, correct?
Yeah, all in the Portland market.
So in the Portland market in 2005, 2006, I mean, we were in we'll just call it San Francisco, South San Francisco market. It was booming. Like commercial was on fire.
Yeah.
Similar market. Now, did you guys have a slowdown in 2008? Was that a pretty big hit to you guys, or were you already into maintenance at that point? How'd that affect your 3 years in, a little bit of a recession back then? How'd that happen for you guys?
Yeah. So that was a tough time. We have always tried to watch the markets as well. Like you get certain signals from the market about where things are headed. As you mentioned, 2006, 2007, it was just crazy booming. We had started building our maintenance business, maintenance portfolio a little bit more. But then in 2008, I want to say it was maybe late 2007, early 2008, we started to see a few signals. And we have friends who were in the furniture business, and it usually when the furniture stores start struggling, they're like the canary in the mine. And
that's a good point.
So we saw that, and we decided we make a strategic decision to push as much growth as we could into the maintenance side, knowing that there's going to be a slowdown, and that maintenance is people have to take care of their properties for the most part in one fashion or another. Maybe they don't spend a lot of extras, but we needed to move into that space as quickly as possible. We still did a lot of construction, but we ramped up our maintenance so that by the time 2009 rolled around and there was a huge crash, in the market, we had set ourselves up so that we could sustain that through 2009, 2010.
Yeah. No, that's great. Now, did that dictate your guys' growth path at that time to go more into a maintenance focused role with that crowd? I mean, it sounds like it pushed you a little bit. Did it completely change the way you guys looked at business going forward after 2008, 2009?
To a degree, yeah. We always knew that commercial construction was going to be our rocket booster, if you will.
Okay. Yeah. Like get you off the ground.
It gets me off the ground, and then it's going to tail off, right? Because really what we wanted to get to was a maintenance business that had enhancements and all the other stuff that come with that are much easier, better for the company, better food, I guess, if you will, nutrition for the company from a profitability perspective. So we knew that we wanted to shift that direction as much as we could. We still did construction, but our growth and revenue kind of leveled out. In that third, fourth, fifth year, we leveled out at that 3 to 4 million almost every year. But it was shifting, our revenue was shifting from more commercial installation to maintenance and enhancements and other activities.
I mean, and that's a healthy shift. I think that's an interesting time that it happened to you guys where you were pushed into that maintenance maybe a little earlier than you had planned, but ultimately it probably worked out for the better. Now, as you guys scaled up from that 3 to 5 million mark, was there any barriers that you hit along the way? I mean, was there 5 million, 7 million, 10 million, or was it maybe an employee base of like 50 employees, 70 employees, where you and your partner kind of looked at each other like, this thing's taken off and it's serious, and we have to maybe reinvent our strategy or reinvent the way we operate as a team to stay organized. As you scaled up in size, where was that first big headwind or big plateau that you guys reached?
Yeah, that 5 to 6 million was that first headwind where you hit a area where you, as a leadership group and as an executive group, you can no longer do as much as you're doing if you don't bring in additional management, additional leadership. And so that 5 to 6 million mark is where we brought in Peter May, another partner at that point, brought him in as an employee, and then over the next 3 years, brought him in and made him a partner. Because we knew we were going to need additional brain power, if you will, and even to handle some of the administrative stuff that we were going to be dealing with as we grew. We decided at that point, you can make decisions all the way along your business, but at certain points you have to say, okay, we've made it this far, we're doing good, we're at 5 million, 6 million, do we want to grow? And if you want to grow, then you have to bring in additional leadership. Now, you could stay right where you're at and be profitable at that, and if that's your goal, fine. But we decided to grow. So we brought in people. I hired our first account manager and brought him in at that point, and that was a new experience. So we had to bring in this new layer of leadership, both on the operation side and on the customer side. And so we decided to grow to that point.
And I love that. And I think most people listening to this show have that mindset, that same mindset of growth, and not necessarily, like, I think 5 million for some are for sure in the cards of where they want to get to, but I don't think there's very few that want to stay there. Everyone I talk to, even, I was talking to a 19-year-old with 2 employees. He's like, I want to be 10 million in 10 years, and so
awesome.
like the goals are changing. I think $1 million used to be the goal, and now it's like $10 million is kind of table stakes. So I appreciate you sharing that. Now, tell me a little bit about the partnership decision. Not everyone brings on partners to the business. We have 5 partners in total, and I think it makes us stronger than ever because of that. Now, you guys have 3 partners. That was that third partner you added. What was that decision that you made with the 2 co-founders to bring the third one on instead of just having them as like maybe a highly paid executive? What was the decision that pushed you over into a partnership?
Yeah, that's a good question, Justin. I will have to say, let me back up just 2 seconds. I want to give credit where credit's due. We did have one additional partner that founded it, and Larry Osley is his name, and he was a he provided the seed capital for us. So, but he's
Okay,
a
nice.
silent partner for the
Yeah,
most
yeah,
part. But
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure he gets his name in there because he's been incredible this whole time. And when we were struggling early on in that first 3 years, when you got a lot of debt, you got a lot of stress, and he stuck with us and made sure that we were going to be successful and really helped us be who we are. So, thanks, Larry, for sure.
Huge shout
But
out because you and I both know commercial insulation is not a cash cow in terms of cash flow. You're like 90-day cycles if you're lucky.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
big shout out
yeah.
to
So it was
the
super
full team there.
important. But I think that, and you probably know this, Justin, is when people go from being working for a company versus being a partner in that company, your mentality shifts almost overnight. And that's maybe the hardest thing for people to understand. And that's why we wanted to, for the administrative part of the business, for any kind of growth, we needed that additional person to think like an owner and not think like just a vice president or somebody that's over a big part of the company. You really need to have the best interest of Peak Landscape. And in order to do that, incentivizing them with a part of the company was what our strategy was.
Do you guys feel with that alignment around the ownership perspective and that equity perspective enables you guys to have more maybe candid conversations because you know that we're not like no one's getting fired here over something they said. Like you guys can be more honest with each other versus maybe a leadership team that is just there through base pay W-2 compensation?
For sure. Yeah. There are hard conversations that you have all the time.
Yeah.
And that could be around not just, hey, should we buy this piece of equipment? But it's about strategy because we all have different views about where to go, even for 2026. We're about ready to have a strategy session. And I know that the three of us, so if you look at my Jason, my founding partner, he is 7 years older than I am. And Peter is 7 or 8 years younger than I am. So
Okay.
we all have different goals and strategy about what we want to see in the company. I'm more of a positive guy. Jason is a very excellent, detailed, operational, realistic guy. And Peter is amazing at looking at things from a process perspective. So we all bring something unique to the table. And if you don't have those conversations, or what the benefit is having those conversations is you can tackle it from every angle. That doesn't always mean that we're happy about the result because we think, well, everything is sunshine and everything's amazing and I'm happy. But I need somebody to say, well, did you think about this? And if you don't have that person who's invested in the long-term future of the company to tell you that, you might go down a pathway that they're just telling you that's the pathway, but maybe they're just telling that so that they're pleasing you, right? And not giving you their honest opinion.
Yes.
And have somebody that's invested in that future of the company to tell you that is going to be better than somebody that you have paid to tell you that. I think about ChatGPT all the time because I almost have to tell it to stop kissing my butt because it tells me everything is positive and everything is great. I need it to be honest with me when I give it some crazy ideas that I give it.
I totally agree. It's like, Justin, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And you're like, wait a minute. I mean, tell me some feedback.
I just told
here.
you that I'm going to go kick a cat. That's not a great idea.
Yeah, it's like, come on, let's have a little bit of that. I agree, though. I think I'm similar to you, Mark, as I am very optimistic and sunshine and things are going to get better tomorrow if they're bad today. And sometimes you need that hard truth of, hey, maybe this is a time to make more of a pivot in the business than we would like to. And maybe things aren't going to get better just if we keep doing the same thing over and over. And my John is our COO, and he's kind of my filter, if you will, with all my optimistic ideas. Because I'm always coming up, probably as you, I think optimism, you always end up with new ideas coming through as well. And sometimes you got to maybe follow through and finish off the idea that you had last year before
Yeah.
you take the company in a whole new direction.
Yeah, that is the challenge because I call myself sometimes a 90-10 guy, is that
Okay.
I will go 90% of the way and be like, yeah, it's pretty good. I think we're pretty good in that.
Yeah.
But it's that last 10% a lot of times that I have. I mean, you should see I keep a journal of my tasks and things, and most of the time it's a mess just because I have tasks that are, 2 miles long and
Yeah.
good ideas that I want to execute. But I think what we have found and what's made us successful over time is just the consistent process every day, doing the work, the same boring stuff every day. And it's the fundamentals. You guys talk about your fundamentals at K&D,
Yeah.
and it's no different here. We have these fundamentals that we do every day, which is, be on time, work hard, things that I learned when I was a kid from my dad and my mom, and be kind, be
Yeah.
persistent, be diligent. These are all things that if we just do those things and everybody knows their job and knows what they're supposed to do, then we all rise together.
Totally agree with that. And not everyone has that same background or that had that same opportunity of learning from their parents of how to be kind or how to be on time or how to work hard. And when you can instill that in the team and show them, hey, this is our expectations, I think that's being kind. There's a quote I heard recently that says clear is kind. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's just like, be more clear about your expectations because that is the kind thing to do, even if it may seem somewhat abrasive in the moment. It's at least you're given those clear expectations of the fundamentals. Now, I agree with you. I think people want to listen to podcasts and get the hacks of how to get a cheat code or a shortcut to success. And I think we both agree. I would agree with you is it's the hard work. It's showing up every day. It's doing the boring stuff every day, but it's just being relentless that if you follow the formula,
Yeah.
good things are going to happen. And I kind of want to go back to the story a little bit, if you don't mind, of kind of growth at Peak and where you guys are at today as a company in terms of the markets that you serve, in terms of the employees that you have, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, but love to give the audience a little perspective of where are you guys today, all the way from that start back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah. So if you want to go back and look at we had finished, I don't remember what year it was, probably 2012, 2013, we had done about 6 million in revenue. And I was at a point where I couldn't do any more than at that point myself. And I'm sure our partners, other guys were like, yeah, we can't. We're tapped out, right? So we needed to bring in that. We decided to grow, which meant more investment and more people. And so we started to do that, and we really honed our processes and skills around our enhancement and that side of the business. We started a tree division out of necessity. We couldn't find anybody that we liked working with as a subcontractor, so we just started our own. It's kind of that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And that's what started Peak, is we think we can do it a little bit better than anybody else. And so we grew, and by 2019 we finished that year right around, I think, 12 million. So we had doubled the size of the company in that time frame, and that meant that we really invested in our market in Seattle. And so we had done work. We had dabbled with, because we have customers that are in both markets, that serve properties in both markets. So we had dabbled and done some stuff here and there. And we actually had a crew that would go up to Seattle every week and do work up there, just stay in hotels and then come back down. I know that doesn't sound like it makes sense. It made sense at the time.
What's the drive like, Portland to Seattle, for those who don't know?
Yeah, it's like a 3-hour drive.
Okay. Yeah.
So they would drive up, stay in hotels and then come back. Right. And we did that for like 3 years, it seemed like. And then we finally got a physical presence there in about, I think it was right around, let's see, it would have been 2018, 2017, 18, somewhere in that range. And, but then when we got to that 12 million mark, it was another like, roadblock or wall
Right.
that we hit. And it was in that, we can no longer do what we're doing with the team that we have in place. We've maxed out our team. And so we sat down again as a partnership and said, "Hey, are we ready to grow again? Right?
Yeah.
Are we ready to reinvest, or are we happy where we're at?" And we all decided at that point in 2019 is okay. Yep, let's do it again. Let's grow. And so
Yeah.
I think in 2020 we purchased more vehicles than we've ever bought before. Um, and that's maybe what I would say to people who are interested in that. Growth doesn't necessarily mean profitability, because you have to invest in people and you have to invest in equipment and whatnot. But you have to think growth in terms of years rather than of 1 year or two. It might be like our growth plan was a 5-year plan. And so
Yeah.
we wanted to double the size of the company again in 5 to 6 years. And so this year we'll finish just over 16 million. So we're a
Nice.
little behind to where we want to be, but our goal is to get to that 20 million mark and really keep pushing. And so what we've had to add is another layer of leadership, another layer of add more account managers. I now have 3 business developers. We have 6 tree sales guys. We have, it's just a tremendous amount but along the way, and that's the other thing that I think maybe you asked for nuggets or things that maybe people want to, how did you get here, is I didn't have any business background. I didn't go to Harvard School of Business, or I went to the School of Hard Knocks. And I have a lot of, I'm hard headed. Maybe that's why I graduated. Maybe that's why
Yeah.
I've done okay, is
Yeah.
because I learned everything I've learned along the way. So each time we've grown, and even today, I have to learn and keep learning new things about how to lead people and how to lead different kinds of people, because I didn't do that 5 years ago. I have to learn as they're learning. I have to train and teach and help. And by doing that, I'm learning myself and growing myself. So if you ever stop deciding to grow or to learn or to be better, then your company or your team stops. You are a reflection. Your team is a reflection of how much effort and energy you put into them.
That is so well said. How have you kept up? Because the growth is tremendous, and doubling the company every 4 or 5 years is such a hard thing to do. How have you personally kept up with the journey of having the capacity and increasing that capacity to have the business acumen required to run the $16 million company today versus the $6 million company 10 years ago? How have you
Yeah.
gone about that journey yourself?
I think it's whether it's healthy or not, work is part of my identity. It's my passion. So Simon Sinek is an author I really like. He's a guy I listen to a lot, and
Yeah,
he
same here.
talks about starting with your why, right? And about every quarter, I will sit down and I will reaffirm what my why is. And I probably should do it more often. I mean, I think about it constantly, but when I say I sit down, I really sit down and take a half a day and look at where we're at, look at where I'm at personally. And so that's having kind of a mission in mind. And that's been the cool part about Peak, is our mission from the beginning hasn't changed. Our mission statement has never changed. We established it even before we started in 2005, and it's still the same mission today, 20 years later. And so that drives us every day. And for me, I just like to be busy. I like to work.
Yeah.
I take value from my work, good or bad. Sometimes that can be toxic. But for me, it's that consistent 40, 50 hours a week never thinking to myself, I'm the boss. I should be able to schedule, time off. But it's more, my mentality has always been, I'm the boss. I have now 160 or 70 employees that I support. And that's the thing I'm most proud of, but that's what scares me to death too, that
Yeah.
I need to support those people. And I will work as hard as I can to support those people and give everybody the help that they need to do their job the best that they can.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I feel a lot of that servant leadership coming through in what you're saying, and that idea of serving those who serve us, and serving our community. And you kind of mentioned that it's almost this honor that you have to serve these people. I feel that way. And you have this responsibility to ensure that you're always keeping up and you're always stepping up as a leader, so you can always, at least for now and hopefully for the foreseeable future, right, is like, we can continue to serve them, we can continue to support them and help them succeed, because we set the ceiling of our team's ability. And so if we're not growing, then we kind of set this artificial ceiling on our team of what they're capable of, what they can actually do in their lives.
That's right. Yeah.
I think when
That's
when
great.
I'm ever facing that moment of uncertainty, or maybe just that feeling of a little bit of burnout, I kind of fall back into that idea of, who do I impact? And when I start listing the names down on paper and reflecting on the why, I'm immediately like overcome with gratitude and appreciation for everybody believing in the vision. And it's not just mine, it's our whole team. And you can I think find another gear and then go back at it, and have that passion.
Yeah. Yeah. You touched on something that I think is real critical, and maybe this is my background. I have a strong belief in God, and Jesus Christ, and gratitude has an immense amount of power in your life. If you're ever, feeling like you're need a little bit of a check when it comes to pride, just do a gratitude list and realize how much of that is nothing that you've done, right?
Yeah.
So much in our life is people who support us, people who guide us, direct us. We can't do it all. And so being grateful for others, being grateful for your journey is what resets me and helps me be humble, and realize that I just need to work hard. And if I do everything right, I make the right choices, I know I'll be blessed for those choices.
Absolutely. And how much does your faith play a factor in your obviously day to day, but how much does it play a factor in the way you run the company and the way you operate and the way you have that self, I don't even know if it's self-confidence or anything, but this, sense of self-belief, maybe we could say, like, how much of your faith plays a factor in that ability to have self-belief in your ability
Right.
as a leader?
I would say that there's definitely times over the last 20 years where I'm like, I just want to lay in bed. I just don't want
Yeah.
to go. I do not want to get out of bed. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do anything, right?
Yeah.
I think my faith, what it helps me do is it helps me understand that I have to do my part, meaning that I know God is not going to come down and he's not going to, oh yeah, let me just take care of that for you. It's not how it works. We're here to learn. We're here to be tested, and really just learn through the process, right? If it was just given to us, then we wouldn't value it. We wouldn't understand it. And so for me, oftentimes I go by this mantra, was that I pray as though everything depends on God, but then I get up and go to work like everything depends on me. And so I have to
Powerful.
work, right? I have to work. I have to show that I'm also grateful. And that's how I show I'm grateful, is by working hard. And that's where faith comes into it. I have no doubt that God has been a part of what we've done here. But at the same time, if I hadn't worked as hard as we had, and Jason and everybody here, all of our employees, if they don't work hard on a consistent, ongoing basis, then you're only as good as your last month, your last quarter, whatever it might be. You have to continue. It doesn't stop.
And that's the truth, and that's the hard part I think that people underestimate in growing a company. And our paths are very similar in terms of our growth trajectory at K&D Landscaping.
Yeah.
We hit that 20 million mark last year, which was just so amazing. But as I've said multiple times on the podcast over the last years, we hit the 20 million and then we've kind of plateaued at that level. And we've kind of been bumping up against 20 million, 19, 20, 18 and a half, 20 on a trailing 12 perspective this year, because we are going through a leadership transition of not just people, but of ourselves. And a lot of times, and I've done this, I kind of had this idea, once we're 10 million in revenue, I'll have a leadership team. I'll be able to take time off. I'll be able to cruise. Once we're 20 million in revenue, it'll be so much easier. We'll have all this money to pay bigger overheads. And my gosh, it never seems to amaze me the challenges that are presented in front of us for business as we hit these next levels. And it's not like some things do get easier. Like I don't have a bunch of clients calling me because I'm not an account manager today. Like we probably both were maybe 10 years ago, where the phone was ringing 10 times a day. But now we have account managers asking us for, issues and solutions to the problems that they don't have the answers for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very different approach.
Right. And even, last year we hired an amazing business developer that came from a non-landscape world. Right. And so it's taken over a long time just to train him on the basics, right? Basics of what you're trying to sell, and how to position yourself so that you provide value to the customer. And I've got, 6 account managers that report to me, and they have challenges every day that we're solving. So I actually like that. I like that I continue to help. I have an opportunity to train and to help them, because we like to think that we see the landscape world a bit different than maybe our competitors, but really it's about solving people's problems. That's our whole mantra, is find a problem to solve and then solve it for your customer and improve their life. If you improve their life, they're going to love you forever. So.
Yeah, that's a great saying. It's such a simple way to approach customer satisfaction, is improve their life. I often say improve their day. If someone calls you, can you make their day better after that phone call or after that interaction? And if you can, then those are the small steps that will lead to them wanting to come back and continuously work with us. I find that the folks that come in, and we have 2 business developers right now that both came from not industry backgrounds. One from a tech background, and Jamie, she comes from a hairstylist background. And so, just so different, but coming in, they've both been extremely successful, because I think part of it is they're not bogged down with all the industry knowledge and experience. And maybe to some degree, they're a bit ignorant in a positive, I mean that in the most positive way. Like they're not going to worry about some of these issues that maybe someone who's been in the industry for 20 years might worry about, which could potentially get them in trouble. But they're very optimistic. They're very excited to serve, and they've done a great job. Have you guys had success bringing in people from outside the industry and teaching in the horticulture fundamentals?
Yeah. We have in some regard. I think definitely they have a longer learning curve. But we've had success with on the business development side. Even in the account manager side of things, we've hired people that maybe haven't. We had one that was a florist once, and we brought her into the commercial space, and it was like all new. And but really, what we look for more than anything is, can you talk to people? Can you develop a relationship? Can you give good customer service? And if you can, then we can teach you everything else. That's always
Yeah.
been the challenge, especially on the tree side of things. We could either find a climber that loves to climb trees, but couldn't sell his way out of a brown paper bag, or find somebody who's a great salesman but knows nothing about trees. So it's hard to find that balance between the two. But if I was to, my preference is to have somebody that is great with people and can develop relationships, and then I can teach you everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that takeaway. I would take someone who's super hungry to learn, really great with people, cares about people at a deep level for the right reasons, not just in it just to make a bunch of money. They really want to serve others, and they're hungry to learn. I think those individuals coming into our industry right now, and I'm grateful to say I think there's a lot of those people coming into our industry right now. It's very exciting to see that versus and you find someone who does have the horticulture background and is also good with people. They're like the unicorn, and those people are
Right.
doing very well in our industry right now. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
for sure.
So, quick question on this, and this is something that, feel free to talk as much or as little about as you'd like. But one aspect that has been, impacting the industry in a lot of ways is the private equity involvement in our market, specifically commercial maintenance. And us being in that San Francisco Bay Area, we have, name the company, and we
Yeah.
probably have one of them
Right.
in a stone's throw, and it's been an interesting impact in our market. In some cases, really opportunity. Others, they have operated really well from maybe a business perspective, and have grown their market share in areas that I think are deserving for them. But how has that impacted you guys in your markets? The Portland, Seattle market definitely have some influx of that. Do you see it as a positive? How have you reacted to that? Some people, like in Sacramento, Yellowstone just moved in there, and they're kind of I get a lot of calls of them kind of getting nervous. What would you say to someone that's in that position?
I would say that we have those companies, like you said. If just name one of the private equity groups, and they're in Portland or Seattle, right? So
Yep.
they're here, and of course, there's interest all the time, emails, phone calls, it's always there. But what I would say is that you shouldn't have anything to fear if you're building your business in such a way that it creates value, both for you and for your employees for the future. So we've always built our business on metrics that, whether or not someday we decide to do anything, or whatever other people might look at, is use the metrics that build value in your business, and that'll be good for you. It'll be good for your employees. It'll be good for everybody. So that's really what we have focused on, is just making sure that we do what we need to do to make sure we're valuable, because profitability is what drives the ability to grow. It's what drives the incentives that we have for our employees. If we're not profitable, we can't do a lot of those things. So we have to build off value, and that's good for everybody.
I agree. Yeah, I think when you build a company I always say you want to build a company that everyone wants to buy and you never want to sell. And
There you
if
go.
you could do that,
That's a great
then
saying. Yeah, that's perfect.
I got that from a speaker in one of my CEO peer groups, and I've kind of hung on to that because it was
Yeah.
I just love the mindset, because you're right. You don't want to build a business and say, I'm building this business and we're going to sell it in 3 years. I think if that's your mission, you may attract the wrong type of people.
Right.
But you
Well,
don't,
and your mindset changes, right?
yeah.
If you're just in that consistent, constant mindset that you're going to be selling at some point, then you might make decisions that aren't for the best of your team and are just for profit reasons only.
Correct. And I think that's what we've seen from some of the private equity companies that are in our markets, is they're making decisions because they are planning. Obviously, that's private equity's playbook, is they invest in a company and then in 5 to 7 years, they sell that company. And I think we've seen some of those negative impacts of that methodology and that mindset around a profit first mindset versus maybe a people first mindset, with an importance of profit as a foundational aspect. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's helping us or hurting us as companies that compete with them, but it seems like for the most part, it's an opportunity for guys like us.
I think it's an opportunity. That's the way I would look at it. I think for us, it's an opportunity to maybe attract people. And I wouldn't say that there are some. I'm familiar with a lot of different private equity groups, and there are some that I think are doing it in such a way that they focus on people first. But there are definitely some of those in our market that don't, and so we end up benefiting from that because people want to come work for us instead of work for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a fair amount of good people in the world, and I kind of use that as a mindset in all things. So I think like whether it's artificial intelligence or it's private equity, I feel like there's more good than bad in the world, and those things are going to seek out the good more because there's more good people, and so you can always point to a bad PE company or a bad leader or maybe even a bad, AI that shouldn't have been trained the way it's trained. But for the most part, these things are adding a net positive to our industry. And I think it's a good thing that we're in these spots. So talking about 2026, talking about the growth at peak and where you guys want to go next, what's kind of your process that you guys go through to get ready and lay out your 2026 strategic plan and your vision for next year?
Yeah, it starts with us as a partnership group. We'll sit down and talk about what we want to accomplish, what our personal goals are for the company, and then we'll realign ourselves for 2026. And then I typically would then have a meeting, which I'm scheduling today, getting the venue and everything situated for early December for our kind of business development team, account managers, tree arbor consultants, everybody on that side, and we'll go through. It'll be half of our quarterly kind of recap, and then our push to the end of the year, and then we'll talk about 2026, and then we'll have various operational meetings in December and in January to kind of roll it out to our operations teams after that.
Yeah, kind of pass that information down through the pipeline.
Yeah.
Now, how many people are going to be in this early December planning session after your ownership team meets? You guys go to your leadership or what have you, and what does that look like? How big of it is it? A big team? Is it a small team?
I'd say it's like 15 to 20 people.
Nice.
Yeah. But then we tend to like we're not big on meetings. Let me put it that way. Every meeting needs to have a purpose, and it needs to be a clear purpose, right? So we'll end up even having our processes are such that we can probably never have a meeting if we didn't have to, right? We meet. I meet with my team. I have weekly check-ins with these 15 people every week, right? I'm talking to them constantly. We're talking to our operations supervisors constantly. So having a meeting is typically for a bigger purpose, like 2026 strategy. But a lot of that is just to realign our vision for what we already are doing and make any corrections that we need to make. I wouldn't say we have any earth-shattering strategy that we are like, everything is changing for 2026. No, just keep doing the same boring stuff that made us successful to this point, and maybe alter a few key items, and but just keep going. Have great proposals, have great customer service, really work on training your team to deliver quality product. And if you do all that, which is the same thing we've always done, then you'll be successful.
That's awesome. And so when you talk about that kind of stuff with your team for next year, are you guys looking at any type of robotic mowers or electric equipment or anything in that realm? I know it's a big trend that I've been looking at. We've been testing out a lot of robotic mowers, as you probably know.
I was in your session at Elevate, and I've known you've been on the autonomous and the robotic and electric side for a long time. So I wouldn't say it scared me. It just gave me a lot to think about. That's what I'd say. But we are going that direction. I would say probably slower than some. But there are now some mowers in the market, like Crest with their new Voyager mower that we just looked at last week. That's impressive. And I think to not take advantage of some of those things would be a mistake. So we're definitely looking at increasing our capacity to purchase and to use those in our operations in the next year for sure.
Yeah, man. It's an exciting time, and we're in a, I do a weekly update every week on this podcast Trade Stock that we're on, and I kind of share our strategy somewhat openly, and we're definitely going to take a risk in 26, and we're going to try a lot of different things, and it'll be an experiment. I think we'll learn from it, whether it's a good year or a bad year, whether we make money or lose money. At the end of the day, it'll be kind of a bit of an open case study in the moment, kind of a live case study. We're going to do, 52 weekly updates next year on what's going on and how it's working and how it's,
Yeah.
so you guys can learn a little bit on our dime, if you will. But we've I've got a call actually right after this podcast with Crest to talk about that Voyager and talk about, we want to put it through some real testing, because at Elevate, at Equip, they're making a lot of big promises of what this machine can do. And really it's like, hey, it's going to be your third guy or your fourth team member, and you now only need 2-man crews or 1-man crews. And so I'm excited. Next week, we're getting 2 units, and we're going to be putting them through the test of like what happens when there's stuff like a picnic on a lawn in an HOA that you're trying to mow. What do you do?
Yeah.
And
What happens?
what about a median in the middle of a busy intersection that you have to kind of like weave your way through traffic that our guys do? And so we're going to go and try to test it out and document that. We'll share it. But
Well, like here in the Northwest, we get a little bit of rain. So
a little bit.
can this mower handle some soggy turf areas during the winter? Right. That's one of the questions. And it's obviously a non-bagging unit. I haven't seen a bagging unit. So right now, all of our turf is bagged. So that's a challenge that we need to work with Cress on. But I see the potential of it. But you're right. There is a lot of things that need to be sorted out.
Yeah, like when you're operating a mower and it's in a wetter area, there's a certain amount of operator finesse that you apply to the mower to not spin the tires, to kind of take it at certain angles. And I think that's going to be something the machine is going to have to really go through a lot of learning to figure out. And I'm sure one day it'll be there, but I think there's going to be applications where it's a no-brainer. And then there's going to be applications where it's like, it kind of works. And then there's going to be applications where it's like, all right, this is not going to be automated anytime soon. So it'll be fun to see how it all rolls out and how it plays out. But where are you guys at today in terms of your mix? Are you mostly commercial maintenance as of today? Do you guys still do commercial installation, or what's kind of your mix as of today?
Yeah. So our maintenance makes up, somewhere in that 35 to 40% of our total revenue. We try to get to a point where we are, just looking at like the last 12 months, where we have about if you add in our enhancements and water management repairs and tree work, and we do plant health care as well. So if you add in all those items that relate to our maintenance side, we have about 100% penetration.
Wow.
From contract revenue to enhancements. So we diversified our revenue as much as possible, just so that we don't have to rely on maintenance, especially in the summertime, to drive cash flow. Because as you know, it doesn't do that in the summer. So that's been a kind of a piece that we strategically have positioned ourselves in. That's been a big benefit for us. We still do maybe 1 or 2 million in commercial installation here and there. We've started to dabble more into it, but we only do those projects that will lead to maintenance, that are with maybe existing customers, or that are in we're bidding against only maybe 1 or 2 other people. That kind of we're picky. Now we can be picky now. Right. So we
that's the best place to operate from.
Yeah.
When you can be picky about who you work for and take the projects on you want to take on. And so when you mention water management, I think a lot of people are probably thinking Northwest, a lot of rain, water management's not a big issue. I mean, I know that's not the case, but I think that's a lot of where people go.
People have that stigma or that thought process about the Northwest. But the interesting part is And it's a secret I don't like to share very often because then more people will move here. But
Right.
from
Sorry.
about from about the middle of May all the way through the middle of September, it doesn't rain hardly at all in the Northwest. So um, we get a lot of rain in, between those times during the winter. 40 inches of rain here in Portland is our
Yeah.
yearly rainfall. But most of that comes between, the middle of October through the middle of March,
Yeah.
first of April. So we need water during the summer to keep our grass green and to keep everything rolling. So it's irrigation system is a big part of what we do.
Yeah. And do you feel like you need almost more water because the lawns are so used to that heavy drenching during the winter that they kind of demand more water during the summer?
Yeah, they're wussies, I guess. If
Yeah, exactly.
they don't get the right amount of water, they just are like, okay, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going dormant. I'll be back. And we have because of that, because stuff's green here all the time. If you go out into the Columbia Gorge or you go up into Seattle, one of my favorite places ever to visit is Victoria, British Columbia. It's so beautiful there,
So
and
beautiful.
people just have an expectation of green. And so when something's not green, usually the first thing they say is it's dying, right? Or it's dead. It's not dying or dead, but that's their perception of it. So keeping it green is one of our, we say if you have good flowers, green grass, no weeds, you're in. That's it. That's the
Yeah.
formula right there for the most part.
Yeah. And then back that up with great customer service and you're going to build a great business.
Right. It's not, I think I try to make it more complicated than that, but
I'm
really,
definitely guilty of that.
well, with technology and man,
Yeah.
there is not a spreadsheet that I didn't like for sure. I love spreadsheets and new technology software, but again, it goes back to just those fundamentals.
Yeah. And do you feel like those are the fundamentals, the relationships, the keeping the grass green and great customer service is kind of at the base of the foundation of your guys' growth?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't advertise. We still don't advertise really,
Wow.
but everything that we built for the first 15 years was organic, word of mouth, referral, relationship driven.
That's incredible. And you guys had such great growth too in that short period of time. I mean, I think anyone you talk to going from 0 to 5 million is maybe the hardest part of anyone's career. And not like it gets much easier as we were talking earlier, but at least
Just different.
at least it's different. You're not the sales guy and the accountant and the leader all at the same time. Awesome, Mark. Well, we like to end all these episodes off with a trade secret of sorts. It's kind of our signature question we ask here on Trades Talk. Would love to hear something. You've shared so many great nuggets already, but a trade secret from you that you learned through your experience in the School of Hard Knocks.
Be willing to learn. That would be my trade secret. It's not really a trade secret, I guess, but
I think it is.
be willing to accept correction. Be willing to learn. Be willing to say I was wrong, and be willing to just accept that that was not the right road. I need to go down a different road. That's why I respect what you're doing at K&D for this next year, what you've talked about just testing and experimenting a bunch of things. Most of what I know is right is only because I went down the wrong road first. And, if you go down road B, you're like, nope, that wasn't right. So back up and go down a different road. And it's the testing and the constant experiment that will help. It's helped made me a better person. And if we always give up when something doesn't go right, we're not going to move forward. We won't be who we need to be for ourselves and for our team members.
I really, really appreciate that trade secret. That is at the root of that as humility is being able to say you went down the wrong road, even if it was usually, it's our idea as the optimistic guys. We're the ones saying, hey, this is the way we should go. And then when you realize it's not the path, putting that truck in reverse and backing the team up is the hardest thing to do. But when you're willing to learn, as you said, you can, I think, accomplish so much more in the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
And you're on LinkedIn. People, I know a lot of people listen to this and they often want to reach out with maybe a specific question. What's the best way for maybe someone listening to get a hold of you and shoot you a message?
Yeah, just you can find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message there. Mark Pyrah. There's only one other Mark Pyrah that I know in the whole world, and he lives in England. So if you connect with him, then you might not get the same experience. But I'm on LinkedIn, so just message me there, and I can give you my private information and cell phone or whatever you need.
And you're such a giving individual. I really appreciate that. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time. You guys, It's been another episode of Trades Talk. Hope you're taking notes. Hope you're learning. Hope you're growing, raising the bar. And as always, keep disrupting. We'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to Trades Talk, where the next generation of disruptors comes to raise the bar. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in the trades who's ready to level up. For more tools, insights, and community, follow host Justin White and join the movement at jwhitegroup.com.